guys, it is Aoife from Fred We See Died Laughing, and I'm here with, I don't know whether it's my last June weekly wrap up or my first July wrap up. I think I'm going to go with my last June wrap up really, as we're only a couple of days into July so far. But I managed to read 5 books, or finish 5 books this week, so I'm pretty happy about that, and I will just go straight in and tell you all the books I read. So I mentioned last week that I was about 120 pages into The Dark Days Club by Alison Goodman. I finished it on Monday afternoon, I think I finished it, and I loved this book. This is absolutely brilliant. This is set in Regency London, so around the 1800s, the early 1800s, and it's about a girl called Lady Helen, and she is basically trying to organise her kind of coming out ball, where she's kind of out in society as a lady and she's ready for marriage proposals and stuff like that. So it's a lot of stuff that she has to do. She has to act a certain way and be a certain person, and her mother, she lives with her aunt and uncle, and her mother has a bad reputation, had a bad reputation as she died, and she has to kind of try and be someone so people aren't comparing her to her mother. Basically all these kind of weird things are starting to happen to her. She kind of feels herself this like high energy in herself all the time, and just kind of this, she can just feel herself changing a little bit, and it ends up that she's can be something called the Dark Days Club. She can be a member of it because she has special abilities that kind of help identify and kill demons, and this guy called Lord Carlston comes to help her, try and train her and try and tell her what she is, try and explain it to her, and just kind of trying to figure out these secrets from her mother, as it seems that she has inherited her abilities from her mother. So this is just really, really good. I really loved the story itself. I loved Lady Helen and I really loved the reality of it, where like, I mean, she was a person who would always need an escort, so it was hard for her to go off and just meet Lord Carlston somewhere, and he has a pretty bad reputation for some things that happened a few years ago, so she's not supposed to be seen with a man of ill repute basically. So it's very hard for her to be able to organise these meetings with Lord Carlston so he can tell her and explain to her what the Dark Days Club is and what it does, and I just felt like it was very realistic. And then she is being threatened with a terrible marriage by her uncle if she behaves badly, and then she just has like all these normal things that she has to do, like organising a ball and trying to figure out if this man that is, you know, kind of flirting with her is a good man to marry, a good man to end up with, and what she actually wants to do with like the rest of her life, and what kind of man she wants to marry, and does she want to marry at all, can she marry with these abilities and stuff like that. She has a lot to think about. And I just thought the world was really interesting. I would have liked Lady Helen herself to have a little bit more action in it, but I feel like that's going to come a lot more of her physical training. I think it's going to happen in the second book, where this one was just a really good eye-opener to the kind of world that she has fallen into. So I'm really looking forward to the second book to see more of her training and seeing her get more physically kind of adept at being able to do this kind of demon kind of hunting, or reclaiming is what they call it. Kind of reclaiming someone's soul basically is what they're doing. They're taking the darkness out of people's souls, because the demons can kind of inhabit human bodies. So yes, I really enjoyed it, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars because I just thought it was really great from start to finish, so I can't wait to read the next one. The next book I finished is Prince of Fools by Mark Lawrence. This is kind of a story set in the same world as the Broken Empire trilogy, which I read a couple of weeks ago, and I finished off last week, and this is about Prince Jalin, who is the grandson of the great Red Queen who reigns in this place called the Red March. And Jalin is just the typical prince. He just loves to drink and gamble and sleep with pretty women, and he's pretty happy just doing that. He doesn't have like these great ambitions to be king, and he's kind of happy enough just to keep doing what he's doing, but he's kind of this person that kind of gets himself into a lot of trouble without really meaning to. He just does like silly things, and he just kind of thinks with his body parts rather than thinking with his brain a lot of the time. So this is a reread for me. I have read this before, but I got my own copy obviously when I got my copy of the Broken Empire trilogy, so I wanted to reread this before reading the second and third in the series, which I have off Neck Alley. So but this was just really good. It was really fun going back to Jalin and then meeting the Viking. He kind of gets magically bound with this Viking when this spell kind of goes a bit wrong, and basically Jalin is filled with this like good good magic, light magic, and Snorri, who's this Viking that he meets, is filled with dark magic, and they can't kind of split apart from each other, or else they feel like, you know, they need to be together all the time. The magic needs to kind of be close together but not actually touching, so they can't be far away from each other. So Jalin kind of ends up accompanying Snorri on this kind of revenge mission for his family, to kind of try and get his family back, because Snorri's family have been taken by these really bad people, and it's just kind of their adventures and their friendship, and I just really enjoyed it. I think I do enjoy this book in particular better than the Broken Empire trilogy, just because I feel like Jalin is everything George could never be, because George is so, because the bad things happened to him when he was younger. He saw like his mother and brother killed in front of him when he was only like 9 years old, and so he was filled with so much anger from a very early age, where Jalin never had any kind of that kind of stuff happen to him as far as he knows, as far as he can remember. So he is just kind of this happy-go-lucky prince who, you know, just does what kind of people would think this kind of, you know, someone with no responsibilities does, and he's just quite funny. I just felt like he himself is quite funny, to kind of the stuff he says and stuff he gets himself into, and then just his friendship with Snorri is great, and their kind of little kind of, you know, the way they interact, and they're quite funny towards each other as well, but at the same time it's just like a really nice camaraderie, so I just really enjoyed that, and I enjoyed going back and rereading it and kind of refreshing myself with the story, and I gave it like a 4.5/5 stars. I'm kind of undecided, but I did really enjoy it. And the last 2 to 3 weeks I have been listening to Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty on audiobook, and I finished that this week. So this is basically this is kind of a book that's been hyped up a lot, or been talked about a lot, so in case you don't know what it is about, it's basically about this girl who, this young woman whose son goes into kindergarten, and she meets all these other mothers, and she kind of just gets embroiled in these kind of parenting politics and these kind of all this stuff that's going on in this kind of kindergarten school or this primary school, and all we know is that this kind of terrible accident happens at the very start in it, and then we kind of go backwards a couple of months in time to see where it all kind of began, and we're kind of trying to figure out who got hurt in this incident and who did it and all this kind of stuff. And there's a thing about kids bullying and trying to figure out what kid is the bully and what kid isn't the bully and stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting. I really liked it. I thought all the characters are extremely vivid in it, and they're just really great to kind of read, and you end up, even though there's some that can be kind of annoying, you do actually end up getting quite close to them, and you feel for them a lot for all the different things they're going through. It's kind of a book that gives you a lot of frustration, but I think it's kind of a good frustration. It's kind of like, you know, you just kind of want to find out what happens, and I was pretty surprised at the end. I wasn't like completely surprised, but the way it kind of wrapped up in the end, I was pretty happy with. It definitely gave me some kind of oh my god what moments, like kind of gaspy moments, which I really enjoyed. And I'm glad I decided to read this in audiobook, because I just felt like it kind of heightened the tension a bit, and I had to wait a little bit longer to kind of get that reveal. I wasn't able to flick forward a few pages to kind of give myself a glimpse of what was happening or everything like that, so I really enjoyed that. I wasn't able to do that, so it kind of really held the suspense for me for this kind of book. But I really enjoyed the writing and just the character development, and I loved how, even though we had our three main moms, which was Jane, Celeste and Madeline, and we have all these other mamas who kind of get little tidbits and stuff from like at the end of chapters where they're being interviewed by the police or stuff about this certain night that where an incident happened, and we're kind of getting a little glimpse of them as well. We don't really know them that well, but I felt like all their personalities were really individual as well. We kind of really got them. So there's like the mom who always had to mention that she has 4 kids, and then there's one who's kind of like a big fangirl of another mom who is like this hard working mom, and she has kind of like this little fangirl and this other mom called Harper, and there's just all these little different things, and it's just, I mean, like, it kind of makes you not want to have kids that are going into like kindergarten, or what we would call junior infants I guess over here. It kind of makes you scared to kind of have to go into that world of like parent teacher meetings and parent teacher associations and all those parent nights and stuff like that, and have to go in kind of almost, it's like almost into the playground as well, again, like all that kind of playground drama, except this time it's with adults. So it's a little bit like, oh god, like I don't think I ever want to have to deal with that. But it was just so much fun. It was fun drama, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I also finished a NetGalley book this week, and that was Racing Manhattan by Terence Blacker. This is a really good horsey read that I really enjoyed. It's just a recent release. This is about a girl called Jay who is living with her uncle and her step aunt, and she is racing horses kind of in these kind of illegal kind of backyard kind of racing races, like this horse races, and she's really good. She's like a natural at horse racing, a natural with horses, and she ends up running away from her uncles for specific reasons that she just doesn't kind of feel like part of the family basically. So she runs away and she ends up going to become a stable lad in this racing stables, and she has this really strong bond with a mayor there called Manhattan, and basically Manhattan is just like this, everyone thinks she's impossible basically, and Jay comes along and it gets this bond when Manhattan really works on her and kinds to prove to everyone that Manhattan is a really good racing horse, and you know that she has a really big potential. And I really enjoy this. I thought that the racing, just the whole racing story in it was really interesting. I felt like I was getting a lot of information I didn't know about racing, because Jay kind of goes to racing school at one point and she goes to classes, and it was just a lot more in depth than I ever thought it would be. And then I thought there was this really great storyline of the sexism Jay faced in the stables. You know, she was being teased. She was one of the lads, but then she was teased about being a girl, and she was getting a lot of sexist remarks, and if she didn't take them well, she was like, oh, you know, you can't take a joke, blah blah blah, this kind of everyday sexism thing that I think a lot of women have to face in male dominated industries basically, like horse racing. And it was just really interesting to see how she was dealt with, from just being a female jockey point of view to being a stable lad and saying, well, you know, you're not strong enough to deal with these horses because you're just a little girl kind of thing. And then there was this whole thing of the owner of Manhattan getting a lot of stick over in his home country of Saudi Arabia for having a female jockey, and I thought that was really interesting, because I could see that happening. I felt it was very realistic, and I could see that happening in Saudi Arabia if there was this like prince or this really high up wealthy man who was letting females ride when they can't even basically drive cars over in their home country. And I thought that was very interesting and I really enjoyed it. But I just loved this book. By the end of it, I was like, basically felt like I was like riding the races with Jay and Manhattan, because they were just so, I don't know, there's just so much atmosphere and stuff in them, and I just had a little squeal at the end as well, at the very end, for what happened, and I just really loved it, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. And the last full book that I finished this week as well was The Smell of Other People's Houses by Bonnie Sue Hitchcock, and this is set in Alaska in the 1970s, and it's basically about 4 different people: Ruth, Dora, Alice and Hank, and kind of just how their stories intertwine. All of these different things going on in their life, and it's just kind of all these things that they're doing and how they're all kind of intermingled within this one kind of little kind of town in Alaska. And I really loved this. It was a really fast read. I basically read it in one day. It's only 250 pages, and the atmosphere and the setting was just really great. I just loved how everyone was connected in these really subtle ways, and how everything came together in the end. And there was just something really magical and like beautiful about this, about how human it was, just the thoughts, the things these people were going through, and the things that they were thinking, and the way they all looked after each other. This community kind of looked after their own, and they all kind of looked out for each other. And there were times definitely that I forgot that it was set in the 70s, and I was kind of like, oh, like that probably wouldn't happen like today. Like with one of the lads who was running away, he was brought to this other town, kind of an unofficial kind of fostering thing. Oh, you can stay with these people until you turn of age, that you can look after yourself. And it wasn't really like official or anything, and I was kind of like, oh god, like how can they do that? And then I remembered it was like in the 1970s, and I was like, oh, I guess they probably could get away with that kind of stuff. And then there was just some history about Alaska and the whole Alaska becoming a state of America and this kind of thing, and a lot of Alaskans didn't want that, and I never knew about that because obviously I know like basically nothing about Alaska except it's like cold and snowy. So I really enjoyed that, and the whole thing was just really good. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I didn't give it a 5 stars just because I'm not like, oh my god, I love it, but I did really enjoy it, and I think it's just a really cute book, a really cute YA contemporary, and I definitely recommend it for people to read because I just thought it was really beautiful and really human and just lovely. And seeing as it is the first weekend of July, I will pick out my TBR pick of the month. I didn't read last month's, hopefully I will get to read it this month, we will see, and one just fell out there, so I'll just choose this one. And this is I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, which I believe I have in my Kindle. I hope I do anyway. So I have read The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson a long time ago. I liked it, I didn't love it, so I'll see how I feel about this one, and yeah. So please let me know what you guys are reading, if you're reading anything good lately, and comment down all your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys again next time. Bye!